I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Hello everyone and welcome to Ask Rob and Rob, the show where you provide the questions and we provide the answers. That format's been rolling now for many a Tuesday, and the good news is we continue. 2 great questions in this week. Now before we get into those questions, let's give you a quick reminder of how you can get involved and get your question answered.
Yeah, you shouldn't need reminding by now, but here you go anyway. Just give us a call, 013 808 00035. That's 013 808 00035, or go to propertyhub.net/ask. Either way, all you'll do is you'll leave us a voice message. You can have a re-record if it all goes a bit wrong, and then eventually we'll get that question answered for you. And that's what we're going to do right now for Andrew.
Hi Rob and Rob, it's Andrew from London here. Just wondering, is there a time when it's best to renovate your property? So you talk about the property cycle a lot of the time. I'm just wondering if there is a time during that cycle when renovating your property would actually be most beneficial in terms of minimizing costs and adding value to the property. Really love what you're doing on the property podcast. Massive fan here. Look forward to meet up one day. Thanks again.
Oh, Andrew, we do love a good cycle question. Thank you for sending this one in. It's an interesting one because from one point of view, you want to be doing it early in the cycle, and the other, you want to do it late cycle. So there's a bit of a contradiction, and I'll explain that. When it comes to actually getting the work done and getting it at the best price you can and having the most choice, the best time to do that is early in the cycle, ideally just after the crash, because that's when nobody else is going to be doing it. You might remember in the last boom, there were all the programs on TV, there was changing rooms, there were the Sarah Beanie programs, people buying at auction, all of that stuff. And that means everyone was getting the idea of adding value either to their own home or to other properties, and therefore builders were in lots of demand. Once the crash hit, that all very quickly went away, and so you'd be able to get far more choice of who did the work. You'd be able to get a higher quality probably for a lower price. So that's when you want to be doing it, but you're not going to see the benefit of that work immediately, because when the market is depressed, there's just not going to be a lot of capital growth. And yes, you'll have forced some appreciation there, but you're not going to get the compound effect of the forced appreciation along with the growth of the market. You'll really start to see the reward of that later in the cycle. So all else being equal, if you were doing the work yourself, for example, then you'd be looking to do it towards the end of the cycle when you're getting the biggest helping hand from the market. But if you're looking at a long-term hold rather than a flip, maybe it's a property that you're buying that needs some work doing, or maybe it's properties that you already own and you're looking at having some cyclical maintenance, then the best time to do that would be early cycle, because then you'll get that uplift eventually. It's not going to give you a quick profit, but that's not what you wanted. What it is going to do is potentially allow you to increase the rent, and it's going to give you an easier holding period. And then as the cycle matures, you'll see the benefit of the capital value uplift as well. Win-win.
So thank you, Andrew, for your question, and thank you, Kiki, for this question.
Hi Rob and Rob, my name is Kiki. I'm a 23-year-old working on my property business. Firstly, I just want to thank you both for all the effort you put in to the content you provide us listeners. The information and support you give is completely invaluable. My question is regarding derelict housing. From what I understand and from what I've heard, some areas up north have schemes run by councils to bring up and revive houses that are not currently in use. Now, I've heard all sorts, from houses being offered for very low prices all the way to councils providing monetary grants to investors to revive these houses. I wanted to know what your both your thoughts were on derelict housing as a strategy, and if you either of you have gone about reviving houses or areas which are derelict.
I love this show because when you think we've covered all angles and all subjects, you get a question that's just completely different to anything that's been asked before. Now, for those who aren't familiar with what Kiki is talking about here, there are schemes, most commonly found in Northern England, where you can buy a house from the local authority, the council, for sometimes as low as £1. Incredible, right? Let's buy them all. It's not quite that simple, and it's not as exciting and as appealing as it may sound, although it could be great for some people. What the local authority is trying to do is encourage people back into areas of their towns or cities that have been left to rot pretty much. These areas have often been abandoned where there's little or nobody left, and they want to regenerate that area. So what they do is they allow someone to come in and buy that property for, say, £1. But here's the catch. You have to refurb it within a certain amount of time, and you have to live in it. This is not for investors to flip. This is for owner-occupiers. So if you're prepared to move to a different part of the country, buy it, refurb it, and you have to cover the cost of the refurb, get it to a standard that the local council is happy with, and then and only then will they sign that property over to you. So you actually take a bit of risk. You'll do all the refurb on a property that's unmortgageable up front, and only when they're happy with the outcome, with the result, they will transfer the deeds of that property over to you. So for the vast majority of people listening to this podcast, it's not going to suit. But you never know, Kiki. Maybe you've always wanted to move to North Liverpool and this is your dream opportunity. Crack on, go for it. Well, possibly, like many others, the headline's very attractive, but the reality doesn't really work for investors. Although, a very interesting scheme and a creative way for councils to tackle and improve areas that are a little unloved.
Yeah, and there might be other schemes where those exact requirements aren't in place, where grants are available and you can use them as investment, for example. But still, I'd be thinking, if those schemes are in place, it's probably not going to be the absolute best area of town. Therefore, you have to take that into consideration. Maybe that's something you're okay with, but you'd need to be prepared for it being a trickier hold, potentially, and there's unlikely to be much in the way of capital growth compared to other areas. So just things you'd have to factor in. Right, that's 2 more questions dispatched, but we are still far from the end of our pile. So we'll be back with Ask Rob and Rob at this time next week. But before then, we'll see you for the Property Podcast on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.